This is the Strong is a Mindset podcast, episode number 119. If you're getting stuck because you're trying Lite, let's talk about what that is and what to do about it. This is the Strong is a Mindset podcast, where you'll learn how to build both a strong body and a strong mind by eating, moving, and thinking. I'm your host, physician, personal trainer, certified health coach, and certified life coach, Carrie Holland. Hey, how are you? What's new? What's good? So, what's good here? We are going to talk about a serious roadblock that is keeping you stuck and keeping you from making real, lasting lifestyle change. So we are going to talk through a tough one today. I have hesitated writing this podcast because even when I think about it myself, it makes me feel a little cringy because I am most definitely guilty of this and I don't love it about myself. But I've seen it in my own life and I've walked through it with enough clients, and I think it's an important enough roadblock that we need to put it out in the open. So we're going to talk about this phenomenon, and I'm going to pull it apart and put a spotlight on it because if it's holding me back, if it's holding my clients back, I'm guessing that it's holding some of you back too. And the problem that's holding you back is trying Lite. Trying Lite, okay? So sometimes on your path to change, instead of committing and going all in, you resort to trying Lite. And trying Lite is totally messing with you. It's shooting you in the foot, and it is for sure keeping you from changing your life, okay? And if you've never heard this term before, I want to get into it and help you decipher if you might be trying Lite in certain parts of your life. So I'm not even sure where I first heard the term trying Lite, but I think it's a really great description and it totally resonated with me. And I think the way to best explain it is from this sentence that comes straight from Jen Sincero's fabulous book, You Are a Badass. And that sentence is this: so often we pretend we've made a decision when what we've really done is signed up to try until it gets too uncomfortable. So that right there to me is trying Lite. I read those words years ago and they seared into my brain because for me, it was the absolute truth. And when I read those words, I felt like I was being outed. So at the time, I was thinking of leaving medicine, or at least I was thinking of finding something else to do that was different from being a doctor. And I started working with a coach because I had a goal. I had no idea how to achieve it, and I needed help. I needed guidance. So I found and hired a coach, and I spent a whole lot of time and I spent a ton of money trying to figure out what to do. And I thought by nature of spending the money to hire a coach and investing my time and working with a coach, that by doing those two things, I was going to be fine. That was my ticket out. And God bless her, because my coach gave me loads of ideas and we did lots of brainstorming in our coaching sessions, and she gave me tons of tools, and I went out and I tried Lite. I spent thousands and thousands of dollars, not just on her coaching, but also on creating videos and photos of me demonstrating exercises that are safe for pregnancy, because I thought I would write a book about fitness and pregnancy. I did a lot of writing, and I have a number of documents saved on a drive somewhere about fitness and exercising while pregnant. And I did all kinds of journaling. I had vision boards. I had mantras. But when it came time to actually do the work of putting myself out there and creating something, I froze. When it came to taking the next steps, which were much harder, I stopped. So I did nothing with the videos. I did nothing with the photos. I did nothing with the writing. I never looked back at my journals, and that mood board started collecting dust. And looking back on it, I can see now that I took some action, but I didn't go all in. I did the easy stuff. I got the pictures taken. I hired a team to shoot videos, and then I stalled. I got to the end of my comfort zone and said, thanks, but no thanks. And I did not finish what I set out to do, because the next steps would have meant putting myself out there. It would have meant putting a book together. It would have meant trying to get published. It would have meant subjecting myself to other people's opinions and rejections. It would have meant the potential for failure. And that did not sit well with me. So I stopped short. I tried Lite. And that was in early 2014. That was about 10 years ago. And it's only in retrospect that I can see what I was doing. I knew in my head what I wanted. I wanted a different career. I wanted to do something related to fitness. I wanted to educate people. But I was not willing to go all in. I was unwilling to do the hard things necessary to get me to my goal. And that is just one example. I have many, many others from my own life related to fitness, career, and my relationships. And I also have examples from my clients. So here is a pattern I have picked up from coaching loads of clients around changing their habits. So this happens commonly. I have a number of weight loss clients who, when they first start working with me, they are eating many or the majority of their meals out. Whether that's from fast food, takeout, or sit-down restaurants, or all of the above, many of their meals are not cooked at home. And they realize that in order to eat healthier and lose weight, they need to change their eating habits. So they cut back and start eating meals at home, which is awesome. That is a great start. And then, despite eating more meals at home, my client still might not be losing weight. And when we get into the weeds of it, we discover that yes, she is eating at home, but it's things like chicken fingers and French fries, or fettuccine Alfredo, or frozen pizza. So it's food she bought at the grocery store, but it's ultra-processed, hyper-palatable, calorically dense foods that she's eating at home. And that ultimately results in no weight loss. And I have had many conversations with perplexed clients wondering, well, geez, I'm not eating out, I'm eating at home. So what gives? And that gives us an opportunity to talk about what she is eating. So this situation, which comes up frequently, it opens the door to a conversation about the place of whole, unprocessed foods in our diet, things like fruits and veggies, versus ultra-processed, high-calorie foods. And so together, we make the realization that it's not just eating at home, but what and how much she's eating at home. That makes the difference. And so then she'll see that maybe the food she's buying and eating might need to change, because food quality matters a lot when you're trying to lose weight. And so that, right there, that is when it gets hard. So it is one thing to go from eating pizza from Pizza Hut to eating a frozen DiGiorno pizza at home. It's one thing to go from eating a plate full of chicken fingers and fries at TGI Fridays to eating Tyson frozen chicken fingers and French fries you got at the grocery store. That is one shift, sure, but it is another thing entirely to shift from chicken fingers and fries to a chopped, veggie-filled salad plus grilled chicken breast. It is another thing entirely to change from eating pretzels for a 3 p.m. snack to a Greek yogurt and a piece of fruit. That is most definitely different. That is a different story altogether. But those are the types of changes that are often necessary in order to result in weight loss. And that is just one example. There are others, like this one. So imagine you do make that switch. Say you are successful at changing the makeup or the what of what you eat. Imagine you've made the transition from a largely processed food diet to a largely whole food diet, at least for your main meals. But you're still ending your meals with sweets because that's what you've always done. So what do you do if you're used to eating sweets after lunch and dinner because that's just what you've always done? Because it may be that those desserts or pastries or pieces of candy or chocolate are adding up to be just enough to keep you from losing weight. But you've already changed what you're eating for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So how can you possibly change up what you do after meals too, right? And that is when it gets hard. That's when you have to decide what it's worth to you. Because the hard realization that many of my clients will make is that in order to lose weight and change their habits, they aren't going to be able to eat whatever they want, whenever they want. Often, they realize that there are a number of changes that are necessary in order to lose weight, and that is not a fun realization to make. And that is when it gets hard. That's when it can get really uncomfortable. And it's at this point that you can decide to keep going and keep pushing yourself, or you can decide that it's too hard and you quit. I think of trying Lite as going after the easy, low-hanging fruit and stopping there. You address what is easiest and you address the behaviors and make the changes that don't leave too much of a sting, right? You can trade Pizza Hut for frozen DiGiorno. You can trade restaurant fries for frozen fries at home. Or for my exercisers, you can do your morning workout when you have a late start time at work, like 11 o'clock. But when you have to be at work at 8, which means you have to be up at 6 in order to get your workout in, as an example, well, that's a little different. For some of you, that early wake-up time is going to burn a little. It's going to be dark. Your bed will be warm and fuzzy. Everyone else might still be sleeping. And then you've got a decision to make. You can decide that you are truly committed to the habits that will change your life and get out of bed at 6 o'clock when your alarm goes off and get on with your workout because you know it's the only time you have to do it in your day. Or you can hit snooze and say, maybe next time. You have that choice. And you get to choose to stay comfortable and try Lite, or you can choose to push outside your comfort zone, get out of bed, and get it done. It's your choice. So I really do think of trying Lite as testing the waters until you start to feel the squeeze, until it starts to feel uncomfortable. And if you are not totally committed, as soon as the change feels uncomfortable, you will find yourself backing out. And so here's where trying Lite can get tricky. On the outside, it might appear as though you're putting in the effort, and you are, but it's only to a certain point because trying light is exactly as it sounds. It's light. It's not the full version. When you're trying light, you aren't fully engaging in the work and you're not fully diving into the challenge in order to create meaningful change. So it gets tricky because yes, while trying light is still trying, it's not quite enough to get you results. You're taking action, but it's not the type of action, or it's not the intensity of action, or it's not the duration of action that is necessary to yield meaningful, real results. So you're doing something, you're trying, but it's just at the limits of your comfort zone and not a centimeter beyond. And do you know how much change happens within your comfort zone? None. Okay? So when you're trying light, you are taking action, but it's not the action that takes you out of your comfort zone to move the needle towards real change. So if you have ever done this, if you have ever tried something until it got uncomfortable and then stopped, let's talk about it. Because I want to help you get past this. I want to help you bust through trying light. I want to help you walk through the discomfort of change so that you get to the other side and see how awesome it is, where you consistently follow through on habits like eating healthy and exercising, even when it gets hard. And most importantly, I want to help you stop trying light and start trying for real. Because when you do that, not only will you change your life, change your lifestyle, and change your habits, you will also prove to yourself that you are someone who follows through even when it's hard. That is proving your own self-efficacy, and that feels really good. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about why trying light may not be helping you and the sneaky ways that trying light might be showing up in your life. And then let's talk about what to do to get past it. Okay, so first, when you're trying light, most often it's because you are not fully committed to change. So if you have ever tried to change your habits, you know what a challenge it can be. And if you're not totally committed to the process, it will be that much easier to stop and give up at the first sign of difficulty. Remember that there is a big, big difference between wanting something and committing to it. You may want to change something so very badly. You may want to change your weight. You may really want to change your eating habits so that you feel better and lose weight. You may really want to start exercising and build muscle. You may have a strong desire for one or all of those things. But committing is different. I think of wanting as internal. You think in your brain, yes, I really want to lose weight. Or you may think to yourself, yes, I really, really want to be a morning exerciser so I can get it done and get it out of the way and not have to think about it anymore. But committing is taking it outside yourself. Committing means taking action. And really, it means taking action repeatedly until you reach your goal. And you've got to not just decide it. You have to do more than just decide, hey, I'm going to change my habits. You've got to take repeated action and prove it to yourself. You have to keep showing up for yourself, even when you've been following your plan for a few weeks and haven't seen the scale budge. You keep following a plan and you keep self-monitoring. Even if you meant to get up at 6 o'clock, but you got up at 6:30, you get your workout in anyway. It doesn't matter. Whatever it is, you keep showing up for yourself. If you are fully committed, you keep showing up. But if you're trying light, you are more prone to give up at the first sign of resistance. Okay? Another way that trying light is not helping you is because most often, if you're taking action, it's not with the level of intention and engagement that's necessary to make true, meaningful change. So I think of it as more of a shallow effort that's more skimming the surface, as opposed to diving in and doing the deep work necessary to make a legit change. So how this often presents itself is when you get overly focused on the how of what you need to do in order to lose weight. So let me explain. Sometimes you might find yourself so bogged down in the numbers and the calories and finding the exact right diet to follow, and you laser in on that. And sometimes you flip from diet to diet to diet, or from coach to coach, or program to program, when in reality, it's probably way more than starting intermittent fasting or resuming tracking for the umpteenth time that we need to address. It's your mindset that needs work. But I get it. It's a lot easier to find a different diet, find a different macro split, find a different coach, or find a different program. It is a lot easier to do any of those things than it is to jump in and do the hard work of uncovering your limiting beliefs, practicing self-compassion, and learning to like yourself as you are. That stuff, that is the deep stuff. That's the engaged process, and not everyone is willing to do that work. That work is more challenging. It takes time, and to be perfectly honest, it often feels way worse before it feels better. So instead, you try Lite. You keep it shallow and jump from one thing to another. You go through the motions, at least for a little while anyway. You pull out the tracker every day for 2 weeks. You buy a continuous glucose monitor and you go practically keto and eat next to 0 carbs for a few weeks until you really want bread. You buy one program, you don't see results, swear the program stinks, and then go buy a different program because your neighbor lost 10 pounds in a month on it. You hire one coach, and then you hire another and another. But as long as you avoid doing the deep work of getting into your brain to figure out why you were overeating and solve for that, I would argue that lasting change is going to be really hard to come by. And let me just add here, this concept applies to far more than your diet and exercise, okay? The work of accepting yourself, the work of liking yourself, the work of being kind to yourself. You can't skim over that. You have to be willing to dive in. You may have to go to some really, really painful places in order to uncover what is keeping you stuck. At least that was true for me. I had to dig in and realize that I did not, in fact, like myself at all. So when my own coach suggested that I needed to practice tolerating self-compassion and not just stick my nose down and keep working harder, as was my pattern, I started sobbing my face off because that was it. It wasn't pushing myself harder that was going to get me to my goals. Instead, it was doing the real, straight up, hard brain work of tolerating self-compassion. So please hear me. You can't just go through the motions. You can't keep it shallow. Don't get so caught up in the how. Don't get so caught up in your macro split, your carbs, your minutes of exercise, your MyFitnessPal, that you lose sight of what it's really going to take to change your habits and change your life. It's going to take deep work, creating awareness, and observing yourself, which means you might find things that you don't like. But that's okay, because once you find them, you can change them. And this is the work right here. But if you're trying Lite, you might convince yourself that you just need a better macro split instead. Okay, next. Another way that trying Lite might be hurting you is that it creates a false sense of effort. So to be clear, it's not that you're putting in 0 effort, okay? You may be putting in effort. You may be cutting back on meals out. You may be buying more fruit and veggies at the grocery store. You may be skipping fast food after your kids' soccer games and packing sandwiches instead. So you're taking action and you're putting in effort. But that effort comes with limits. And that limit is your comfort zone. And once your effort hits the limits of your comfort zone, you stop. And I've seen this happen often. I have one client, I just described her. She did exactly this. She cut back on meals out. She cut back on takeout. She started doing some meal prep on the weekends to get herself ready for the week. But she still was having desserts fairly often. She was still snacking on sweets. She was letting weekend dinners be unplanned. She was very inconsistently self-monitoring. She was planning some meals, but not others. She wasn't observing herself through her urges. So there was effort. To be clear, there was effort, but it wasn't the full effort necessary to appreciably move the needle. The effort this client was making was just to the edge of her comfort zone, but not past it. And it was months of this, months of the same thing. And the client would come to sessions perplexed and frustrated because in her mind, she was doing all this work, not going out for meals and not eating out as much as she was before. But beyond that, she wasn't doing the other things necessary to really help her change her habits. And it showed in her stalled weight loss. And I think there was just a little bit of self-deception happening here. In this client's mind, she was running up against a wall. She believed she was working toward her goal, which she was, kind of. But she was avoiding some of the necessary, bigger, harder steps that were going to really move her forward. And one of those harder steps that she identified was managing the urge of wanting sweets out of habit or feeling justified to have them because of her long days. And the larger point here is that sometimes when you're trying Lite, you've convinced yourself that you've put in a full effort when really you've gone to the end of your comfort zone and hit a standstill. And it can feel exhausting to repeatedly get to the edge of your comfort zone only to stop there. It can cause you to feel frustrated and disappointed because despite your effort, you stay stuck. Because when you're doing some work, but you're not doing the necessary work to really bust through your comfort zone, that is when change can feel out of reach. And the other problem with this is that when you try Lite, you may justify that whatever you're trying isn't working, when in reality, you didn't put in a full effort. So this one is a hard one to bring up, but I'm going to go there. I am a coach. People hire me to help them reach their goals, and I will do exactly that. But I cannot do the work for you. No one can. I cannot physically do the work for my clients. I can give them tools and concepts and ideas and calorie and macro splits if they want them. And I can tell them how to deadlift and max out on the bench press. I can do all those things. But what I cannot make you do is put in a full effort. I can't stand on your shoulder while you're in front of your pantry and talk you through your urge. I cannot get you out of bed at 5 a.m. for your workout. I can't convince you that you are amazing if you can't convince yourself of it first by doing mindset work. I can't force you to see that your need for external validation is totally keeping you stuck because you have to be willing to see it for yourself and then practice validating yourself first and foremost. So yes, you can hire someone, you can buy a program, you can order a system, but none of those things can do the work for you. And I don't want you to fall into the trap of justifying that something didn't work if you don't put in a full effort. Because what that typically leads to is jumping from one thing to another, spending loads of time and money, when in reality, none of those things will bring you success until you go all in and commit. All right, next. Another reason trying Lite is not helping you is because it often leads to stagnation. And when I say stagnation, here's what I mean. You decide you want to change, and then you make some progress towards your goals. Maybe you address the easier stuff, you address the low-hanging fruit, and you see some wins. Maybe you cut back a little on fast food. Maybe you cut down your drinking to 2 nights a week instead of every night. Maybe you start adding a veggie to your plate. But then, inevitably, you hit the outer limits of your comfort zone and you stop. And this can play out where you see some weight loss, but then you stall, and you know that in order to keep losing, something else is going to have to change, and that's when it gets hard. But when you're trying Lite and this happens, you give up and you get stuck. You stagnate. And you can be in this cycle for years, if not decades. You can be in this cycle of making a little bit of progress, and then it gets really hard, and then you stop. And it comes back to consistency. So I've mentioned consistency on this podcast at least 100 times, so here is number 101. So consistency, as you know, is essential. And what exactly does consistency mean? Consistency means you do the behavior, you do it repeatedly, and you repeat it often enough within a meaningful time frame that it results in change. That is the most basic way that I see consistency. And if you don't have all 3 of those things, the behavior, repetition, and frequency, then you don't have consistency. But if you're trying Lite, that often results in inconsistent action. And that is most definitely going to get you inconsistent results. When you are not all in, when you are not fully engaged in the process, your progress will be slow, your progress will be irregular and erratic, or your progress may be non-existent. And when that's the case, when your actions are inconsistent, and by nature your results are inconsistent, it can be really easy to give up on your habits altogether. And that will lead you to stagnate. You will be stuck. So when you're trying Lite, you're missing out on the benefits of persistence, okay? Persistence and putting in a true, legit, sustained, gritty effort is what will get you results. Persistence and consistency will get you habit change. Trying Lite will have you running in circles, okay? Another way that trying Lite can trick you up is that it often looks only at the short term. So when you're trying Lite, often the focus is on quick wins, avoiding discomfort, and doing just enough to feel like you're trying. So how does this play out? It can play out in a number of ways. It can look like eating healthy and sticking to a plan on the weekdays, followed by indulging and going off the chain on the weekends. This one happens all the time. And it not only undermines your consistency, but it also undermines the progress you're making during the week. It can also present when you self-monitor for a few days, but then stop prematurely. Maybe because you don't like what you see in your journal or on your app. Maybe you don't like seeing the reality of what you're actually eating. Or it could be that you track or journal for a few days, but you see that you're not losing any weight despite this, and you decide to stop self-monitoring altogether. You stop trying. And here's the crazy thing about trying Lite. While you are trying, you're doing just enough to feel like you're putting in an effort. But again, at the risk of making you mad, true, legit, real change is going to require more of you. It's going to require more effort, and it's going to require sustained effort because long-term results require long-term effort. And you get to be the one to decide how much effort you're willing to put in. So you decide how much change is worth to you, and then you decide how hard you're willing to work for it. It's your choice. You get to choose. You can choose to stay comfortable with the lifestyle habits you currently have, occasionally getting tired of them, only to try Lite and come up against discomfort and stop. Or you can choose to try, to get uncomfortable, and keep going anyway in exchange for growth and results. It's your work, your results, and you always have control over how much work you put in. All right, and last, So the last, and in my opinion, probably the most important way that trying light is not helping you is that it undermines your own self-efficacy. And you know how I feel about self-efficacy. So again, as a quick reminder, self-efficacy is simply your belief in your ability to do what you say you're going to do. It is your belief that you can reach your goal. And self-efficacy is critical to your successful habit change, okay? So when you repeatedly try light, you are missing out on the opportunity to see just how much you are capable of. And the only way you are going to know what you are capable of is by doing it, by going all in and showing yourself what you're made of. Okay? I firmly believe that. And I want each and every one of my clients to prove themselves to no one but themselves. And I want you to prove yourself to yourself. You're not proving yourself to me as your coach. You're not proving yourself to your partner or your kids or your family or your coworkers. You are proving yourself to yourself. And there is serious pride in that. So instead of bolstering your self-efficacy, trying light does the exact opposite. Trying light takes away from your self-efficacy in a big way. The more you do it, the more you try light with loads of half-hearted efforts, instead of going all in on yourself, the more you erode your confidence over time. Because when you stop at the first sign of discomfort, instead of persisting, you don't get to experience the success that comes from hard work. And what's worse is that when you don't fully engage in the process of lifestyle change because it's getting uncomfortable, and then you don't get the results you're looking for, when you do this enough times, you may convince yourself that success is out of reach. When your approach or when your MO is to try light, if you do this enough times, not only will you get totally frustrated, but you might also start to believe that success is not in your future. But the real issue here is not that you didn't get your intended results. The real issue is not that success is out of reach, because that is not the truth. No. The real issue is a lack of full-on, hardcore, stop-at-nothing effort. The real issue is a failure to confront and face your challenges and keep going. The real issue is trying light. And the big take-home here is that trying light avoids the hard, serious, deep work that results in real change. It prevents you from building resilience, facing challenges, and growing. Trying light is keeping you from becoming the person you want to be. Okay? So we just talked about the many, many ways that trying light is sabotaging your efforts to change your habits and change your life. So now, what is the alternative? So the alternative is to try hard. The alternative is to go all in. I'm encouraging you to go all in on yourself. Instead of committing to try until it gets too uncomfortable, I'm asking you to commit until you get where you want to go. I'm asking that when you decide you want to change your life, whether that's by taking better care of yourself through diet or exercise, or losing weight, or changing your career, or changing your relationships, whatever it is you are looking to change, go all in and keep going, even when it gets uncomfortable. I'm asking you to commit fully. I'm asking you to decide what it is that you truly want and commit to engage in the process. Dive in. Do not be superficial about your efforts. Attack the low-hanging fruit, for sure, but don't stop there. Keep going when you feel resistance. Keep following your plan. Keep up with self-monitoring. Keep showing up to do the mind work that is absolutely essential to changing your life, even if you discover things that you don't like about yourself along the way, because I can help you with that. How many times have we talked about self-compassion here? I will keep teaching and shouting it from the rooftops about self-compassion because that is one of the essential pieces of changing your life. I got you covered. I'm asking you to consider accepting the discomfort that comes with real change. Because I'm going to argue, if you keep finding yourself trying light, you have not yet accepted the discomfort necessary to change. I'm asking you to find the limits of your comfort zone, the limits where you usually stop when you're trying light, and decide not today as you bust through them. I want you to show yourself how strong and how capable you are by going past your comfort zone, even when it gets hard, and keep going anyway. I'm asking you to see your change as a long-term investment. I'm not in this work for quick fixes. I don't do fads. I don't do 75 hard. I don't do 30 days to fit. No, thank you. I want you to commit to the things that you can do for life so that these changes and these habits become your lifestyle. Okay? Keyword, life. So remember, short-term effort gets you short-term results. Long-term effort, long-term results. So you've got to be in this for the long haul. If you are going to do the serious work of changing your life, this is not one and done, okay? Remember, changing your habits is trying and failing over and over again until you develop behaviors you can repeat. That takes consistency. It takes showing up. It takes a serious, hefty dose of patience. It takes grit. It takes a willingness to stop trying light and to start trying really, really hard. And if that sounds scary to you, I got you. But success does not come from casual attempts. Success comes from commitment. So I know that this is not easy to talk about. I wanted to bring this concept of trying light out in the open, but admittedly, I do it with caution because it's a hard thing to pull apart. It feels icky. It felt icky for me when I discovered all the areas of my life where I was trying light. But I'm asking you to go deep inside yourself and ask where in your life you've been trying light and recognize that this is your human brain trying to protect you from discomfort. Your brain is trying to protect you from change because change is unknown and your brain does not like the unknown. But you know better. You know that change is where all the growth is. So imagine what it would look like for you to face whatever it is at the edge of your comfort zone and once and for all bust through it. Imagine what that would feel like for you. I think it will feel amazing. Okay? And at the end of the day, I would simply ask yourself what it's going to take for you to go all in. I would ask how willing you are to feel discomfort and keep going. How badly do you want it? And what are you willing to feel in order to see your change all the way through? And then ask yourself if you're ready to stop trying light and start trying hard, trying for real, because success will come when you commit to going all in. All right? And if you need help with this, let's talk. If you are tired of trying light, but you need support for when change gets hard, that's where coaching will help. Check out my website, send me a message at www.carriehollandmd.com/contact, and let's talk about how coaching will help when changing your habits gets uncomfortable. All right? Thank you again for hanging out with me, and I'll catch you again next week. Hey, if you're looking for your next great read, I've got you covered. Head over to carriehollandmd.com/books and download my list of most favorite reads. I've got 2 collections waiting for you. One is all about work-life balance. The other is a collection of books that have changed my life. I've referenced many of these books in the podcast, and now you can access those titles all in one place. Again, that's carriehollandmd.com/books. Check it out and find your next great read. Thank you for listening to the Strong is a Mindset podcast. If you want to learn more about how to build both a strong mind and a strong body by eating, moving, and most importantly, thinking, check out carriehollandmd.com.